Heading here. I've just got a bluegrass guitar lesson for you today. We're going to work on adding melody notes to our strumming. So in flat pick guitar world, this is commonly referred to as Carter style or playing in Carter style. It's named after Mother Maybelle Carter of the Carter family. She didn't actually use a flat pick when she played this style, but most flat picking guitar players refer to this as Carter style. It's basically playing melody notes while you keep doing the strumming. And it's a really cool style because you're basically the whole band. You're playing the melody and you're also playing the accompaniment as well, which adds a really cool sound. You can basically kind of play these old simple melodies on the guitar and it sounds great just on a single guitar. So we're going to break down this technique in this lesson. We're going to start with the absolute basics, just how to pick out different melody notes while doing the strumming. I'm going to talk about different types of strumming you can do, how to add hammer-ons, how to add different chords, how to do different chord progressions. We're going to break down a bunch of stuff in this lesson. And if you're watching the preview of this lesson, you can head over to my website, mikeheadingmusic.com, and you can grab the full-length lesson. You'll get access to watch all the videos, and you can download the tabs and the practice tracks. All right, here's how to add melody to your strumming on the guitar. All right, let's start breaking down this lesson on how to add melody to your strumming. So I'm going to assume for this lesson that you already know some of the basic chords and you can do some basic strumming, okay? So if you can't do that, I have another lesson called Basic Strumming Patterns. I would check that out first. So I'm going to kind of assume you know some of the very basics, but this is still kind of a beginner lesson. So let's start with our bigger C chord over here. And the first thing we want to do is practice just moving around our accuracy with our right hand. So we can play something like pick, strum, which is a very kind of common country rhythm. And I'm just doing that on one note there. But what you can practice to start off with is moving your pick around to different strings. So I'm going to keep my C chord down for this whole exercise, this whole first exercise. And I'll start by playing the 5th string. Also, I'll do a pick. And then see if I can go to the 4th string. And then see if I can go to the 3rd string. And I can, again, keep moving up 2nd string. And then 1st string. And I'm going back to that same strum every time. I have it indicated on the tab as the top 3 strings, but if you hit 4 strings or 5 strings, that doesn't really matter. Basically, you're working on the accuracy of your picking. So the strum of the pick strum rhythm stays the same, and your pick is changing. So you have. Obviously, for this basic exercise, this is all right hand practice. You can see my left hand actually isn't moving at all. The only practice, and it is good practice on my left hand that I'm working on, is getting my wrist angle correct, right? So if I'm back too much like this, it's going to be hard to get that 1st string to ring out. And if I'm, out too far, it's going to hurt my hand. So again, find that proper angle where you can get all those notes to ring out. And just do your string test, or what I call the string test, where you just make sure they're all ringing out. So that'd be the first thing to do, is just practice going. You can go up and down. And back down. Or you can jump around to different notes. Bigger full C chord if you want, and then add the low string, 6th string if you want. So that'd be the first thing I'd practice, is just work on your accuracy, and when your brain says hit the 4th string, for example, then your hand hopefully does it. The other thing you can practice, one more thing, is kind of accenting the pick, and that'll help the melody kind of pop out a little bit. So you could do something like, again, just practice. I'm just making sure I can hear that melody note loud enough. You know, if you're strumming too loud, those melody or the picked notes will kind of get lost. So that's kind of the other thing I'd practice there, okay? So that's the basics, is just work on moving up and down on a chord. I would start with your C chord. I'll show you in a second how to do it on a bunch of other chords. But I would start on your C chord. I think that's a good one to practice with. A lot of songs in this style are played out of the C position. So that one works very well for this style of playing. So the next thing I would do is basically the exact same thing, except we're going to do a pick, and then we're going to do a down up strum. So you can do the exact same exercise. Now I'm just doing a pick, and my strum now has a down up. So let's break that down. So you can either do a pick strum, which would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, or you can do pick strum down up, which would be 1, 2, and 3, 4, and so. And what's really important to note about that is that your hand is actually doing the exact same motion whether you add the up strum or not. So if I do just the down strum, my hand still has to come back up. I'm just choosing not to hit the strings. So my hand is still moving up to play the next pick and then down strum. I'm just choosing not to hit the strings. So when you add the up strum, all you do is you keep your hand closer. So if you're doing it right, it should be the exact same motion. I'm just choosing to keep my right hand slightly closer on the up motion, so I'm just grazing the strings on the way up. Because what you eventually want to practice and be fluent at is just mixing those two up. I see this is a really common beginner mistake, I think, that you get too caught up in, okay, did I do a down strum or a down up strum? Again, if you're doing the motion right, it's the exact same motion. It shouldn't matter at all. You know, so don't let that throw you off. You can do any of these exercises I'm doing with just a down strum or a down up strum. You know, that's a small detail. Same with strumming 4 strings versus 2 strings, or, you know, again, those are small details I think beginners sometimes get caught up in, and it can impede your progress. So just, again, keep the motion of your hand doing the same thing, and I'm just counting to 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So whether I'm doing an up strum or all downs, it doesn't matter. If I want to get really particular about a specific section, I can, and maybe I want to, you know, add more space by only doing downs, for example. But again, when you're starting off, just keep your hand moving, and the most important thing is that you're counting to 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. You know, if you keep the timing solid, it'll be fine if you do downs, all downs, or down ups. It won't matter at all. And it'll also give you an ability to create a variation. So maybe I add more strumming if I want to fill it up a little bit more. So that's something to think about, is just keep that motion the same, and then you can do pick, strum, or pick, strum, up. It's the same exact motion. Okay, one more thing we'll want to practice is, so in this style so far, we're doing pick, strum, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So our melody picking notes so far have only been on beats 1 and 3. And that's great practice to start. But one more thing we want to practice is, just to be able to add a little bit more melody, would be play like 3 notes, for example. So I might go third fret 5th string, and then the open 4th string, and then the 2nd fret, and then do my strum. So basically, I took out the first strum. So instead of going pick, strum, now I'm playing pick, 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 strum. So it allows me to add another, basically to play melody notes on the 2 or the 4, the beats 2 or 4, which you'll have to do if you want to play some melody. So that's another thing to practice is this little measure 8 of the tab. You can do something like basically taking out that first strum and adding another level of melody. So you could flip it around and measure 9 as well. So you could do pick, strum, and then play your 2 melody notes. I usually like to add at least 1 strum per measure. I mean, you could eventually, you know, play all melody notes, all picked notes, but again, I think in this style, you basically you're kind of trying to be the band and the soloist at the same time. So if you add at least 1 strum per measure, I find that helps. So again, you can do, or, again, it's not particular which notes I'm doing. You could take the same, you know, practice moving around to all the notes that we've been working on. So you're basically just practicing doing pick, 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 strum in that example. Okay, so let's move on. That's a bunch of basics for C chords. So now let's look at adding some other basic chords in that key. So another really common one would be F. So if you take your C chord, move these 2 fingers down 1 string each, and then bar your first finger. And again, I'm going to kind of just leave the low 2 strings open. I mean, you could do a bar chord or wrap your thumb around if you really want to, but for this kind of style, I like just going from this C to this F. I think that it works fine doing it that way. Okay, so let's go to our F chord. And I also dropped my thumb down a little bit for this one. Let's do the same thing we were doing with our C, is just practice moving around the notes. And you can now try go back to a C. Let's go to F. C. You know, stay on each as long as you need to. So basically, I'm just trying to get familiar with those notes I can play over my F and C chord. You know, you could do the same thing as play 3 notes and then do a strum. Same thing we were doing over the C earlier. So again, take all these examples and really practice them for each chord I'm giving you. So you can also use these for like bass walks as well. So I could do like a pick strum on the C, and then play open 2, so 2 picked notes, and then go into my F pick strum. Kind of like a little bass walk. So practice moving around on the notes on an F chord. Again, I'm not moving my left hand at all for these first examples. I'm just playing what would be called the chord tones, so the notes that make up the chord. And that's a lot of where you're going to find your melody notes, so that's great practice. You know, if the chord is an F chord, most times my melody is going to be one of those notes. All right, now let's go to a G chord. So a lot of times I'd probably do like my bluegrass G this way, but for this style, I like to do my G kind of more like this, what I call the folk G. So a lot of times you'll see folk guitar players play it this way, because I think it's just easier to get back to your C. It's also nice to have your first finger freed up to eventually be able to grab other notes, and we'll talk about that later. But you can do it this way if you want, but again, I kind of like doing it this way, because then I've got my C, F, C, G. Basically, these 2 fingers can just move down and up, which I think is pretty nice. So again, you go from your F. If you want to go back to C first, you can, then go to G. Just playing all the open strings again. And then you got C. Let's go back down to G. That'd be C, F, G, very common chord progression. One more common chord would be like A minor. So same idea. Remember, jump around all the notes, go up and down, and then jump around. And remember, doesn't matter if you do a down strum or a down up strum, as long as you're keeping the timing, it's fine. So you can mix those 4 chords up in whatever order you want, and then it would sound cool. So you could do C, F, G, A minor, C, mix them up in whatever order, A minor, G, C, as long as you start and end on C, it'll sound okay. So that'd be, again, some of the basics of just playing notes in the chord for each. We're not moving to different scale notes yet, which we'll talk about in a second.